people are able to enjoy the work a lot more, that they are going to work with a lot of less stress, that they are able to communicate better with their colleagues, that they do not have such a burden when they go back home, that they actually are able to let the work be at work and not take it at home.
The internet has made it easier than ever to start a business. Succeeding on the internet, now that's another story. The big question is, what are those who are succeeding doing differently? This podcast has the answers. Hi, my name is Lisanne Murphy. I've spent the last 3 years running a successful advertising agency. I noticed with certain clients, I ran into the same problem over and over again. Their offering was just not grabbing the prospect's heart and wrestling them into purchasing submission. Why? Many of these business owners were so far down the road in their journey and so in love with their product, they forgot who they were serving, missing some essential steps along the way. So, I'm pivoting focus. Join me as I go behind the scenes with the most brilliant entrepreneur minds to demystify the nitty-gritty marketing hacks needed to be successful before spending thousands on advertising that ultimately separate the internet legends from the dreamers. On the previous episode, you heard from me as I shared all about how to find where your dream customers are hanging out online and how to discover how to draw them out to become your dream customers. It is packed with value, so check it out. But stick around because I've got Zutphen coming up next. She shares her story on how she became an entrepreneur and how she helps people in the workplace feel more purpose by increasing their productivity and contribution to the organization. Keep listening to hear the whole thing. Hello and welcome to the Marketing Matrix podcast. I'm your host, Lisanne Murphy, and I'm here with the beautiful and wonderful and talented Zutphen. Thank you so much for being on the show with me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
Of course. I just want to, I love how you gave your introduction. I'm going to give a little introduction about you, and then we want to learn all about your story and about the impact that you're making in the world, all right? So I love when I asked Ella, I was like, how do you want to be introduced? She says that people have nicknamed her the Pit Bull for her fierce determination and passion to help others succeed. So I would love for you to start, like, how did you get that name? And then I would love for you to go into, like, how did you get to where you are today and impacting the lives that you're impacting? So how did you become known as the Pit Bull?
Yeah, sure. So I am in real estate and in social housing for like 14 to 15 years. And with social housing agencies, you are mostly communicating with the weaker, people in life, like the poor people, the people in the ghettos, in the lower suburbs, etc., etc. So they have a lot of problems and they need a lot of help. And oftentimes in the Netherlands, there are a lot of regulations and a lot of rules, which doesn't help that people, doesn't help them at all. And I really care for people. I really wanted to help them. So sometimes I had to stand straight across against my boss. My boss wanted to make one decision and I was like, no, wait, we need to do this. We need to stand for the people, blah, blah, blah. And I could be really, really fierce. And also with my colleagues, if they wanted to do something that wasn't helping the tenant, I was like, wait a minute, we are in a people business and we need to help those peoples. And, I know that we rent out houses, but those houses are lived by people. So we need to take a step back and we need to, also take the personal segment in our head. And, because I was so fierce and because of the social housing agency and the real estate agency is a men's business. So I'm mostly surrounded with men, and they were like, oh, she knows what she's talking about and she's willing to talk back. She doesn't stand on the side or anything like that. And they're like, okay. So at one time there was a colleague and he's like, there we have the Pit Bull. And I kind of got a little bit mad and I was like, what are you calling me the Pit Bull for? oh. He's like, no. He's like, it's a good thing. He's like, because you're really sharp, and he's like, you know what you stand for, and you're determined. You do not take no for an answer, and you're soft. And I was like, oh, okay. That when he explained to me why, then I embraced that nickname, and then I was like, okay, so I use it everywhere now, like in business or in life, and yeah, that's what I am. I'm the pibble.
Well, and I love how it's because you defended people, right? It's
Yeah.
not that like you're a shark and you're cutting people down. It's that you're defending people, which is just so cool.
Yeah.
So I would love for you to just take a few moments to share your backstory and how did you get to where you are today?
So how far do you want me to go back? Like childhood or the start of my business, or?
Just whatever you feel would identify with other marketers that are just trying to make an impact in their business.
Okay, so in the business that I am in right now, it kind of fell into my lap. And I had disregarded that concept for a long time. I always have been entrepreneurial or business minded from when I was little. And I tried many businesses, like multiple times. I think by the time I started my current business, I think I already failed like 6 times. And yeah, I tried like all kinds of different things, and I failed like miserably. And at one point I was living in London. I traveled all around the world, and then I ended up being in London. I stayed there for over 4 years, and I was working at a job 40 hours a week, still miserable. And I'm like, okay, Ella, what are you going to do next? What is going to be your next business thing? And I was like, I don't know. And I felt like a complete failure. And I was like, okay, I tried network marketing and I couldn't do it. I love the concept of network marketing, but at that time I didn't have the know-how or the skills in order to make myself successful. I tried, I've been a nail technician and yeah, all kinds of other stuff. And I couldn't see myself being stuck in a job until like 70 or 80 years old. And I'm like, okay, I want to work for myself. And at that job, I was completely bored out of my mind. So I was constantly luring colleagues like, okay, can you give me some work to do? Can you give me some work to do? Because everything that I needed to do, I already had done. So I was constantly luring. And at one point, there was a colleague of mine who suffered from burnout. And my manager asked me if I could take over her work. And I was like, yes, finally some work to do. I'm not bored anymore. And they were like, there's one segment that you need to do, but you need to keep in mind that is a recurring thing. And your colleague took about 8 days to finish that task. So they're like, if you think you are getting stuck, or if you think it's too much, it's too overwhelming, you need to let us know, because we need to figure it out, or we need to do something different. I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm like, just show me what I need to do, whatever. And I did that thing. But the thing that she was doing every single month for 8 days, the first time I did it within 1 day. And my manager and my director, they were baffled, but they were panicking, because they're like, that's not possible. You made a mistake. That's not possible. And I'm like, why not? Because an expert like her, who's done the job for over 25 years, doing it in 8 days, and you are a newbie and you're doing it in 1. So I kind of got scared, and I thought that I was about to lose my job. And then I had to show them what I did, and how I extracted the information, and how I put it in a document, and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, you did everything perfectly fine. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So then we split our ways, and I was really, really happy that I wasn't about to lose my job, and I could continue going on my way, and didn't think much of it. But unbeknownst to me, a colleague of mine was eavesdropping, and he heard the whole thing. And he came up to me and he said to me, "You have a gift." I'm like, uh-huh. I'm like, yeah, whatever. And I didn't think much of it. And, I just, continued doing my work. And the next day he came next to me. He's like, he's like, "Show me everything that you did. Show it to me." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I showed everything that I did, how I structured my day and the strategies that I used and the programs that I used. And he's like, "Huh, clever. Yeah, okay." And again, it went completely over my head and didn't think much of it. And like the following week, he came up to me and he was like, "Ella, this is amazing. I applied everything that you showed me. I applied it on my own work and it made a huge difference." I was like, "Okay, great." And again, went over my head, didn't think much of it. And that same colleague, he went to a lot of people and he told everyone, he's like, "You need to go to Ella. If you're stressed out, if you don't know what to do, you need to go to Ella because Ella knows what to do." And before I knew it, I was kind of the go-to person. And everyone was coming to me like, "Oh, Ella, can you please show me how and whatever." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And I showed the people all those things. And after a while, I noticed that I actually had a lot of fun in doing it. And yeah, I was like, it made me a little bit warm and fuzzy. And, I was like, I actually enjoy teaching people stuff. And then I made a little bit of like a cheat sheet for my colleagues and gave them out and stuff like that. And then I thought like, okay, am I able to, what I taught my colleagues, am I able to do it to other people as well? So I hosted some free coffee meetups. And then that became quite a success. And then I created a whole workshop around it. And then I taught it to businesses. And it is what it is. Yeah, what it is right now, what I'm calling the Success Accelerator for Employees. So became full circle. So something that I had rejected for quite some time actually became my passion. So, and I never expected that it would show up in this shape or form.
That is a fascinating story. So it wasn't like, I love how you like keep saying that it just kept going over your head, like what people were like trying to say, that you were impacting them with brilliance. So when you got started, when was the moment where like you realized, oh wow, like this, what I'm doing is not common for people, and but it's easy and people need to understand this. And so you like started to create like this vision of a business in your mind. Can you tell us about that moment?
Yeah, so it has been quite a while after that, because it went over my head, because it was a second nature to me. It became so easy for me because I was like, okay, if I know this, everyone else knows it as well, because I didn't study for it. I didn't go to college to gather that information whatsoever. And I think it was around, I think when I hosted the second workshop, then I was like, okay, this is a thing. This is something that I can teach and that people actually like to learn and apply, and that they need. And so it was around the second workshop, and from then on,
That's amazing. So
I never stopped.
I love it. So when it came clear to you that this is what you needed to do, like, are you just trying to take it one day at a time, or like, do you have like a huge goal that you're trying to achieve with this employee success formula?
So, like monetary goals or in helping people wise?
Either one.
Okay, so my goal is by the end of 2020, I wanted to have helped at least 10,000 people, at least. And monetary goals, it would be awesome by Funnel Hacking Live 2021 to get up the stage and to have the 2 Comma Club award. So those are my 2 goals, but to help 10,000 people, that is my primary goal.
I love that. So, and what would that mean for you? Like, what is the meaning behind that of helping 10,000 people?
So what would for me mean to me, it means that 10,000 people are able to enjoy the work a lot more, you know, that they are going to work with a lot of less stress, that they are able to communicate better with their colleagues, you know, that they do not have such a burden when they go back home, that they actually are able to let the work be at work and not take it at home. If you look at statistics wise, it is really, I say it, discerning. I don't know if I use the right word. They did a survey that in the United States and in the UK, 94% of all the employees are stressed. 94. That's a huge percentage. You know,
Yes,
only
it is.
6% of them is not stressed. So what would that mean if I would be able to take a little nugget down, you know, of those snippet of those 94%, you know, and make them less stressed? And also for the companies, because of the employees are so stressed, it is a 450 to 550 billion healthcare cost every single year for the companies that they need to pay for stressed out co-workers, for burned out co-workers, for turnover, etc., etc. So that is what I would like to accomplish.
That's amazing, and
Yeah.
so needed. As someone who used to work in corporate America, burnout, overworked hours, stress, it's very, very real. I experienced all of it. It's one of the primary things that drove me to become an entrepreneur. And so I think that that's amazing, because being an entrepreneur isn't for everybody. So if you can help people be less stressed in their jobs, it can make a big difference in the world.
Exactly. And what I would also like is, you know, that they can find their own power, because everyone has their own super skill, right? But they're not applying it. So, you know, that I want to figure out, okay, what is your superpower and how can you apply it to your job right now? And what is the eventual angle that you need to go to, what you need to aim for?
That's amazing.
No?
So as you've embarked on this journey, what has been a primary struggle that you've encountered as you've tried to build this thing and spread your message?
A personal struggle?
Yeah, it could be a personal struggle or it could be a business struggle.
So the personal struggle is more to get out of my own comfort zone, to get out of my own head, you know, because I've been you know, I've been an employee for over 20 years, and, you know, and to get finally into that business mindset, to make that transfer, you're like, okay, I'm on my way right now, but you're like, oh shoot, I don't know how to do it. So, you know, you learn a lot by trial and error, and, you know, fall flat on your face a couple of times. And yeah, so most definitely for me, it was overcoming the obstacle in order to take action. But eventually when I did that, you know, everything became clear. I had to hear a lot of no's before a yes came.
Yeah, that's it. That's important to remember.
Yeah.
So what tools have you used to be able to get out of your own head and move forward?
Sure. So a thing that I like to use are motivational videos. And you can find a bunch load of them on YouTube. And you have some of the channels who make those motivational videos, make them with music in the background. And what happens, you know, they create suspense and drama. So in your head, what happens, like the motor's keeping running, and you're like, oh, I can do this. And it helps me with exercising as well, and, you know, on the treadmill. And so that's what I'm giving out to people as well, which I've called the Actionator. And it's like my 15 most favorite motivational videos. So yeah, that is what I do. I use motivational videos. I meditate. So it's really contradictory. So at one point I used that because it's really, really hard, you know, people shouting in your ear and music. And on the other hand, I'm really, really still and, you know, getting inward. I like journaling, you know, to get everything out of my head and just onto the paper. And that's about it, actually. Those 3 things.
And those are powerful. Those are powerful,
Mhm.
powerful tools. I've used those at different times myself, and music is a powerful emotional motivator.
Mhm.
Journaling for me is something that I do every day to help me clear my mind and be clear on what I'm trying to accomplish. So
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So in our communication back and forth, you talked about
Mhm.
how you have these 3 pillars to successful execution.
Yes.
I would love for you to go ahead and tell us what are these pillars about, and how do they help people?
Yeah. So the 3 pillars of successful execution are 1, mindset. You know, so what do you do and what do you think on a daily basis? So what doesn't help? We need to take that out of the equation, and we need to replace that with a good tool. You know, what you're just talking about. The second one are habits. So which habits do you need to learn in order for you to get further in life with productivity and efficiency, based on the personality type that you are. You know, it's not a one size fits all. So for example, if you have you and you would do the assessment, then like, okay, you're this type of person, then you would need to do this, you know, these habits will suit you. And then I will help, or I will talk about the habits that you need to unlearn, you know, the most productivity myths that there are a lot of productivity myths in this world that, you know, I help people to unlearn. And the third pillar is mastery. And that's mastery of the systems, of the software systems that you're using, the tools that you're using in order to create your product or service. Because that's also a pillar that people do not use to their fullest potential. And if you use those 3 pillars, then you become a master of taking massive action, and you're on a roll. You know, no one will be able to keep you up.
I love that. So how could someone go about identifying a like you mentioned, with mindset and with habits, things that need to be taken out? How do you
Yeah.
identify things that need to be removed from your life, free from your mindset?
Yeah. So what we will talk about is, you know, they need to get an understanding, like, what are they thinking on a daily basis? What are they saying to themselves on a daily basis? What are they doing on a daily basis? And the actions that they take, are they helping them towards a goal or taking them further? And it's really a big understanding, you know, what they're doing. And if they have a clear assessment after that, you know, they are clear on what they are doing and the things are not working, we need that taking that out of the equation. So for example, with mindset, a lot of people are talking negative to themselves, you know, oh, I cannot do this, you know, I cannot do this because of my family, I have a bad education, blah, 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 blah. So you need to remove all that, and you need to import them with positive affirmations, you know, like, I can do this, you know, um, or like, I'm scared, like, oh, I'm not scared, I'm not experienced, or with I am experienced, you know, I'm an expert in my field, I'm an expert in my niche, you know, to replace those things. Yeah, that's it, like, more or less. And also from beginning to end, you know, from the time that they wake up, from the time that they go to bed, we really do an assessment. We really, how you say, chop everything down to the fullest.
I love that. Those are really powerful and specific
Yeah.
tools. Thank you.
Yeah.
So can you give an example of someone that you've helped recently to either in your employee accelerator or with these 3 pillars? Can you give an example of like how you helped them and what the result was, how their life changed as a result of this process?
Sure. So I can talk about a company that I helped with a process.
Perfect.
So I did exactly the same, but then with the whole department. So there was a financial department. And one of those things that they did, the account payable department, they took about 69 days in order to pay an invoice. So from the moment an invoice came in, 69 days later, the invoice was paid. That in this day and age is way too long. So that process is broken. So I had to go through the whole process from beginning to end. I'm like, okay, so what is happening here? So from the moment that that letter is going through the mailbox, what happens? Who opens it? How many days does it stay there? To who does it go to? How many days does it stay there? And then I noticed that at one point, there was a director, and he kept all of the invoices on his desk for over 40 days. And why? Because he was convinced in order for the invoices that needed to be paid out, that he needed to sign everything off personally. And it's like, no. I'm like, this is really, really old fashioned. More than 99% of all of the invoices that you get, you already budgeted. I'm like, there are no like uncommon expenses, like expenses that you didn't expect. 99% of the expenses you already know from the upcoming year. So there's no need or whatever for you to keep those invoices for 40 days on a pile. And he wasn't convinced. So unfortunately, I had to talk with the CFO. And also because of that, because I talked with the CFO, we he noticed that because he was so slow in signing all of those invoices, that like I think for like 8,000 euros, they had to pay in collection officer bills. Yeah, so that's a huge of extra expenses because they didn't pay in time. And the thing is, in the Netherlands, you have to pay within 30 days. So, and if you don't pay within 30 days, you know, the company can say like, okay, I'm going to give you a fine for a percentage. And if you don't pay after that, we're going to send you to a collection officer. And that's what they did. So there are all kinds of extra expenses. So after I have slimmed down the whole process, we were able to narrow down to 11 days. So from 69 to 11 days.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and I love how like you took the time to investigate and go through the whole process and find out like where was it broken.
And it was so broken at the finance director.
I love it. That is a powerful experience. Mm-hmm. So this work is incredible. So how can listeners learn more about what you're doing and follow along to be able to understand some of these things that you teach people?
Sure. So I have a Facebook group. It's called Productivity Hacking 101. Learn how to work to up to 8 times faster. So they can find me there. I have a Facebook page as well called Declutter Your Mind, because that's the whole essence, of the 3-pillar system, is that we declutter your mind in order to get all the junk out. And Instagram, also the Declutter Company.
I love it. Okay, so I will put those links in the notes to this episode for those listeners that want to get more content from you and follow you so that they can be more productive as well. So thank you so much for that. You also talked about, and this is an incredibly generous offer that Ella has given, but you said you'd be willing to even do a free 30-minute consultation for people that are interested in getting personalized help on their productivity. Do you want to speak into that and why you're willing to do that? Because that's amazing.
Because I want to give more. What I said earlier, people are so stressed out already, and it's only getting a bigger problem. So the thing is that I just wanted to help them for 30 minutes, learn a little bit more about them and their problems, and like within those 30 minutes, I'm mostly able to give them some tips and tricks and that they are able to work with.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. That's incredibly, incredibly generous for our listeners. So I always love to end with one last question. And that is like, you're on this journey and you've talked about how like sometimes it's hard to get out of your own head. And that's a personal process that everyone needs to go through. What are some of the transformations that have occurred as you have been creating this movement for people? Like personal transformations for you?
For me, I became bolder. I'm able to speak out more. I was not able to do that at all. Sometimes I still struggle, especially, when English is not my first language. Yeah, about that. That's a transformation. Also, that I realized that I really need to do this, not just for myself, but for other people, but also for my family and for my friends. Because I noticed when I started my business, a lot of people, maybe you had it as well, are hesitant, skeptical, they wanted to make fun of you. But now that I've noticed that I made the shift, that I made the actual shift in, having my own business, people started to change their behavior as well. I'm not the laughing stock anymore. So, people are taking me more seriously, and they're like, oh, we see that Ella can do it, so maybe we can do it as well. And, that for me is the biggest compliment, that people are like, okay, I can, do something different for myself as well. I'm not, I will not be stuck in the same job or the same thing forever and ever. So I'm showing that in a different way.
I love that. And that's really, really powerful to be able to stand in your power, stand up. I was on doing an interview yesterday, and they said to be able to stand up inside yourself sometimes is really challenging. So that's amazing.
Exactly.
Well, Ella, thank you so much for being on the podcast with us today, and for sharing your knowledge and sharing your love for what you're doing and how you're helping people, and for being so generous with our listeners today and what you taught. Thank you so much for coming.
No, thank you. I'm really grateful for the opportunity.
Thank you for tuning into the Marketing Matrix podcast. On the next episode, we hear from Jason Wright. Jason is an absolute wizard when it comes to integrating technology to help your business just explode. This ClickFunnels, ActiveCampaign, and Facebook Ad Ninja knows his stuff and is always delivering high value to his clients. He is also full of amazing, life-changing quotes throughout the episode, so make sure to click over and listen to that episode. But while I've got you, as always, want to remind you of two things. First of all, the Marketing Matrix Toolbox. This resource is a marketer's dream. Tons of free resources, all grouped together from all of our guests from the Marketing Matrix in one members area, free for you to access all the time. For you to get access to that, go to toolbox.themarketingmatrixpodcast.com. After you do that, we'd love for you to join the conversations surrounding marketing, specifically around Facebook ads that we're having in my free Facebook group. That group is called Facebook Ads for Coaches, Course Creators, and Lifestyle Brands. So come on over to that group. You can hit that group by going to facebook.com/groups/FBAdNinjas. All right, guys, see you in there. Enjoy the toolbox. That's it for now. See you next time on The Marketing Matrix.